Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Patel, and we're going to be going through the um, the Habitat versus Niche activity summary. The expectation is that we've already read this passage that is up here on our own, okay? And then, if you have not already, then go ahead and read that on your own. Pause this video before you do, and then come back to this video once you've read that top portion. Okay. All right, so we'll get started with the first part. It says, what is the habitat of the frog in this reading? Okay, so if I look up here, we're going to go straight to the frogs. Okay? And so it says, as the evening approaches, um, a blue heron lands in the shallow waters at the edge of the pond, searching for frogs and fish to eat. Okay, so it's at the edge of a pond. Suddenly, a plop is heard, and green frogs quickly escape from being the great blue heron's dinner. Okay, so they're in a pond. Okay, and that was shown just right here where it mentioned that it's in the edge of the pond. Okay, so describe the organisms that make up the community. Okay, so when it comes to that, an individual organism is called an individual or just an organism. Okay? Organism. Okay. And then, all right, so an individual is going to be called an organism. And then if we have a lot of one organism, let's say a duck, for example, if we have a lot of ducks, then we would have a population. Okay? And then after that, if we have a combination of ducks and all the other organisms that would be around a duck, like such as a swan or frogs, those sorts of things, they would be a part of the community. So for the community of this particular pond, that's going to be all of the organisms that are there together. Okay, so and those are all already bolded. So that's going to be things like, and I'll do this in a different color. It's going to be the great blue heron, frogs, beaver, great horned owl, and the brown bats. Okay, so I could write some of those in. I'm going to shorten it up. I'm going to write heron, owl, frogs, beaver, and brown bats. Oh, all right. On the next question, it says, what's the niche of the bat? I need to know two aspects of the bat's role in its ecosystem. Okay, and I'll do that in blue. So we're going to go over to the brown bats, which is over here. I'm going to reread that sentence that it's in. So back at the pond, as many animals rest for the night, the big brown bats fly over the water. So as many animals rest for the night, I'll underline that. And then it flies out over the water, feasting on mosquitoes, moths, gnats, and other night insects. Okay? So that is going to be two aspects of its niche. Now let's go ahead and write that in. So one of its niche and one of the reasons why it's successful is that it hunts at night. Okay? That allows it to have less competition for the different organisms that it hunts. Okay? Number two, its ability to catch night insects. That would be its other niche, and that's why it's successful in its ecosystem. Okay? If you put answers like ability to catch mosquitoes, moths, gnats, that would have been fine as well. Okay? So we'll continue. So can two organisms occupy the same niche in an ecosystem? That's going to be no. Okay, it can't occupy the same exact niche. It might be similar. Like, for example, there could be another organism that also eats mosquitoes, moths, and gnats, but it does it in the morning. Okay, so that could be a similar niche, but different. Okay. All right, so if frogs and bats both eat insects, how can they live together in the same ecosystem and not compete for food? And that's just what I just went over. So the frog, they can eat the same organisms, except one is at night and one is in the morning, then they're not in direct competition with each other. Okay? I'm gonna write, let me do it in black. Whoops. One hunts in the day and other at night. Okay, and that's all we'd have to do for our front. Okay, so we'll move on to the back. Okay, so on this one, for my students, I gave them a word bank for numbers 1 through 5. Okay, so we'll use this word bank here for that. And then for number 6, I asked my students to figure out that answer on their own, since they would have to make a little short sentence to answer that one. Okay, so we'll get started. So, number 1, this illustration shows a community of living organisms and abiotic factors of their environment. Okay, so mainly it's saying it includes living and non-living organisms. Therefore, this is an illustration of a blank. Okay? If we have living and non-living organisms involved, then that's going to be an ecosystem. Okay? Ecosystem. The only other vocab term we've talked about so far that has to do with living and non-living organisms would be a habitat. And habitat is usually referred to when we're talking about a single organism's environment. Okay? But in this case, we're talking about all of the living and non-living organisms and factors. So number 2, two abiotic factors shown below are, and of the word bank options that I had, we would have sunlight and water. Okay, so sunlight and water. Okay. There are other choices you could have chosen as well. If you chose precipitation and soil or soluble chemicals, all of those are non-living, so those would have been acceptable answers as well. Number 3, bacteria or decomposers. Another decomposer in the illustration is the blank. And I'll do this in red. So you could have had mushroom, or you could have had soil decomposers as that answer. Okay. And out of my word bank, I had mushroom, so I'm going to write in mushroom. Okay. So mushroom. Number 4, an oak tree is a blank, also called a producer because it obtains energy from the sun. Okay. Our answer for that one is going to be autotroph. Okay. Autotroph. The part in the word of auto means it's kind of a prefix of saying autonomous, like it does it on its own. And troph is just talking about that it has to do with energy. Okay? And an oak tree, it obtains its energy on its own without having to eat any other organisms. Okay? So that's where that's coming from. The rabbit is a blank. Okay? And of our options, we only have 2 left. It's going to be heterotroph. Okay? Heterotroph. Okay? And it's a heterotroph because it obtains energy from other organisms. So anything that is eating any other organism, could be plants, could be grass, it is going to be a heterotroph because it obtains energy from other organisms. Okay? And then the second part of 5 is it's a type of consumer called a primary consumer. Okay? Primary consumer. Because it eats plants such as grass. Okay? And the reason scientists call it primary consumer is because grass and plants, they're considered primary. And since the rabbit is consuming those primary sources, then it's going to be a primary consumer. Okay? And number 6, this is the one we didn't have a word bank for. It says, how would you describe the niche of a fox, or of the fox? Okay? These arrows here, like this one here and this one here, what they're showing is they're showing the direction of energy flow and who's eating who. Okay? In the case of the rabbit and grasses, we mentioned that the grass is eaten by the rabbit, so the arrow is going towards the rabbit because that's where the energy is going. And then right next to the rabbit, we have the fox, and the arrow is pointing towards the fox because the fox is getting the energy from the rabbit by eating it. So the niche, so how is it successful in this ecosystem? So it is successful because of its ability to catch rabbits. Okay? Other answers that could have been acceptable is if you said something like the fox's ability to be agile and that helps it catch rabbits. You could say that. You could say, I had another student that mentioned soft paws because that would allow it to be quiet whenever it's trying to hunt rabbits and other small critters. So that could have been an acceptable answer as well. Okay, but just main thing, niche is how is it successful in that ecosystem? If you have any questions, be sure to email me, let me know, or let your teacher know. And yeah, thank you for watching.